What's up, folks? This is Acid Roots. I'm going to talk to you guys about the debut album of brokeNCYDE. I'm not a fan, but the kids like it. So with this, these guys are signed. They were signed to Suburban Noise, which was the Cottonmouth Kings label. I reviewed at least one of their projects. So they kind of do like punk rock, skate rock, rock rap type stuff, like Limp Bizkit if they would have stuck with their punk attitude type stuff. And then I also realized, well, some more similar stuff: Cottonmouth Kings, Limp Bizkit, Hollywood Undead, and Blood on the Dance Floor. Some of those type cats. So I said, yeah, I mean, just a mixture of all that. And then you take the idea on top of that it's crunk, which is basically a genre that Lil Jon helped create. Then it became Crunkcore, and then you add some screamo type stuff to it, and that's basically what you have with this project. So at first, I probably wouldn't have liked this album, a good handful of years ago, but I'm glad that I decided to give it a shot just because it is pretty catchy, and yeah, it has some good vibes to it. So basically, this album is relentless in just the vibes of going out, getting laid, and getting drunk. Those like some of the main three topics. But then you have to sit there and say, well, can they hold an album together? Now, obviously, I read a couple of the critics' reviews. They basically gave this like a 1 out of 5, some cases like 0 stars, stuff like that. Basically, just had not scored too well. But from a critic's angle, it just depends. I noticed that sometimes critics do try, pick like some of the brainier stuff, the stuff that's more thought provoking and conscious type stuff, but a lot of that music doesn't, it just is not playing good for a Friday night, Saturday night, weekend, or holiday or something, or summer night or something. So I was just kind of like, hell, I mean, most people at this point know to take that with a grain of salt. So when I score this album, which I'm going to give this album a 6.5 out of 10, I'm just going to say, this is actually, as far as I'm not quite as keen on the, getting, completely shit faced like I was, a handful of years ago, but I still almost like the vibes to it because it's like, yeah, these are definitely good feelings. I mean, it's basically easy to say, it's easy to tell that these guys know how to have a good time, and it's infectious, is what I meant by that. So it is infectious. It's a little bit more background with them. They basically got on MTV's Total Request Live, and they, had a song on there, and they dropped a couple mixtapes in 2007 and 2008. They kind of are, they did a promotion with Hot Topic, the store, so they've had like some. I mean, that's the kind of grounds that you're getting if you're curious, maybe if you don't know them all the way, but I like the vibes of that. I mean, really, Hot Topic was, fine enough store, but to sit there and think, there's actually bands and artists that are specifically affiliated with that place. I mean, some of them more so than others. When you think of mainstream, Hot Topic's kind of more alternative. So I said, well, why the hell not? So basically, this album, I'm not a fan, but the kids like it. It was basically like the Hollywood Undead album. It had a good handful of music videos and a bunch of hits on there. And so I guess I'll talk about one of the bigger songs on there, which was Get Crunk. Basically, this song Freaks and Get Crunk, both are immediate go-to songs, even though I like the song with E40, even though his verse is brief, Booty Call. That's, to me, that's the best song on here. He's the only real guest on here, and he has basically the best beat that he pops up on. But the screaming and the liquor lyrics, just keep the things going real well and stuff. So obviously, the first song that you hear is Freaks, and it's good just because for a crunk song, there are some beats on here and some kind of songs that sound like that you would have heard them off of just off the internet. someone like SoundCloud or something like that who, you know, probably wouldn't get like a major deal or something, but I mean, they don't venture into that territory too much. It just is some of the album cuts are kind of flimsy. And like Skeet Skeet is weaker than Freaks in my opinion, but it still stands pretty strong. I think Get Crunk is probably that should have replaced Skeet Skeet as like the second song that you hear. But really, I mean, the tempo to this album is pretty well put together. I mean, most of the time you'll get two good songs in a row, maybe a song you skip, and then another couple handful, because more than half the album is actually pretty kick-ass. Uh, I mean, sometimes it just takes going right to the song titles to be able to tell you if the song's gonna work. I mean, "Scene Girls" is one of the better songs on the album. It's just real infectious and melodic, and I think it works pretty well. "Tipsy," obviously that sounds like something LMFAO would do. So yeah, there's just a good handful of these that really work that way. And you know, so I'm learning these guys' names. I think it's Seven and then Michael. So there's two of them, but then I think there's a couple other cats, Fat J, and then one other dude that I'm trying to remember, like Ants. So I think they were all on like the first album. You know, as time goes on, I'll probably be able to differentiate their verses and stuff, but yeah, it works out that well. So I guess I'll tell you the songs I recommend if you are new to this. So there's 8 of them out of 15. So that would be Freaks, Skeet Skeet, Booty Call, which to me has the best beat on here, Get Crunk, 40 Ounce, Sex Toys, Scene Girls, and Tipsy. All of those, basically, you might as well go to town if you haven't heard these. I mean, they have pretty replayable value, I would say. I mean, for folks who played the shit out of this album, I'd say you might as well go back and listen to a few of these. I mean, they just seem to have like some replay value to them. But I mean, obviously, if you're tired of like the liquor lifestyle, maybe it would be down a tad. But I still think that these can kind of pass, you know, for the scene and hot topic style of things. You know, it really kind of has, you know, interesting type vibes to it. So I would give the social score, which is how well it would play around others if you're trying to listen to it with more than one person or something. I'd give it about, you know, more than a 5 out of 10, probably like a 6, 7, something like that, just because it really is style over substance with this album. That's what you have to see. Is you're not gonna, I mean, E40 being the best lyricist and on this album, and he's only on it for very brief amounts. If you read other reviews on this project, they will say that the lyrics are just panned. They just didn't like the content that went along with this project. But I think the main thing to it is just trying to say, yeah, the main thing is just style over substance. That's just kind of the way that goes. But so I'm gonna give this album a 6.5 out of 10, 7 social. There's plenty of songs on here, like I was saying. I mean, really, they're good vibes. You should be able to have your social circle enjoy this and just have a good time for a few months or a few weeks, something like that. I wouldn't think it gets boring that quickly, but that's just kind of the main thing to it. Is it is actually a pretty lively album. It's not every single project that puts that kind of energy just into being lively. I mean, that's one department that they do have is energy, and you know, a few other folks said that they were kind of for the ADD set, but at least that means that you're gonna be on your toes. You know, that's kind of the situation. If you can't stand them, though, it just depends upon what it is. But I mean, really, you just have to take, you know, if you think this stuff is tacky, you just have to take it with, well, I'm just going to, you know, some pub, or I'm going to some, you know, hole in the wall, so it's not really that much of a deal, or I'm just working out, or whatever you're doing. I mean, you just have to think of the instances where you would listen to it, and it's basically golden once again. I know this is a hella old album. It's almost 10 years old, but I still feel like, I've only seen so much like uh, type stuff. There's really no reviews of these guys on YouTube, at least on this album. So this is that's like the main thing about it, is just trying to say that. So yeah, I mean, some of the videos they did were Freaks, Booty Call, Get Crunk, and 40 Ounce. So definitely a lot of those. I would just say, hell, I mean, that's just like an extra thing to sit there and mess with. But um, I still did actually enjoy some of those. So yeah, this album was just a treat. I think that's really the thing about it. It was just more of a treat than anything else. It's kind of like a shot in the arm. You might as well fuck with it, get your energies up, even if you're not getting drunk along with them. It still winds up being a pretty, courageous time. So yeah, I give this album 6.5 out of 10, 7 social. So I'm hoping that they're gonna keep. I mean, they're supposed to. They just dropped an album last year, but I'm kind of hoping that they'll have some new music in the near future, because I want to see like, where they're at 10 years later and stuff. But we'll see.